Shalom. Let me get straight into this lesson. Everything that you ever learned, pretty much is a lie. And the Lord is doing something very spectacular by exposing, these devils on a global level that really can't be comprehended right now. And he said he would do this pursuant to the book of Jeremiah 49:10, that he will expose Esau, Edom, the Edomites, and show you all their little dirty, nasty, demonic secrets that they've been hiding from you. And it's something that we've been saying for a long time, but no one wanted to listen. So I'm gonna get into this video. I'm gonna break this down. Give me 1 second.
Wake up. Now, Epstein was Jewish and a Zionist.
You hear
And
that?
had big connections to Israeli politicians, to the military, and to the intelligence community. And in the Black Book of Jeffrey Epstein's contacts are people like Tony Blair, of course, Bill Clinton, and Hillary Clinton. There is this psychopath in Saudi Arabia, this crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman. You know, the guy who was behind the bone saw cutting up of the journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Nice man. So Epstein had big connections. It also involves this web, something called the Mega Group. And this Mega Group connects us into Donald Trump, also a friend of Epstein. The Mega Group, a secretive group of billionaires, was formed in 1991 by Charles Bronfman and Leslie Wexner, a loosely organized club of 20 of the nation's wealthiest and most influential Jewish businessmen.
You hear that?
And if you go deep enough into the web, to the level of cabal control, Mossad is the CIA, is British intelligence, is Australian intelligence and Canadian intelligence and French intelligence. And that web not only relates to pedophilia and Satanism, it relates to the forces that are controlling your life today. Virginia Giuffre claims that Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, who is alleged to have been the procurer of young girls, Epstein trafficked her to politicians, princes, and a high-flying financier, among others. Epstein and Maxwell trafficked her to powerful people for erotic massages and sex. Maxwell directed her to have sex with former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson, Britain's Prince Andrew, wealthy financier Glenn Dubin, former Senator George Mitchell, now deceased MIT scientist Marvin Minsky, and modeling agent Jean-Luc Brunel, as well as another prince, a foreign president, a well-known prime minister, and Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz.
See that name, that last name? You know what he
was
is.
part of Epstein's legal team that secured this outrageous plea bargain deal in 2007. So you see, this is a global ring. What this ring does from its controlling core is to use pedophilia to compromise people it wants to control. Presidents or prime ministers or anyone of political and other influence who can make decisions that this cabal wants them to make to advance its agenda.
Right. So you heard that. So the real power is not the president, the prime ministers, and the faces you see on TV. Because, the president say they do 2 terms, right? The real power is the power that keeps going. You got to understand what I'm saying. So the real power is the power that maintains everything when transitions happen. If you understand what I'm saying. So if a president is, did 2 terms, which that's all folly anyway, but I'm using their system to explain something to you. 2 terms, right? That power still continues behind the scene. that power don't never change. You just, the faces change that you see, but the real power behind the scenes never changes. So that's that illusion that you have no knowledge of. So, matter of fact, let me show you something real quick. So the Edomites, the J people, what they've done is tried to say that they were not Edomites. They said the Edomites were Western powers in America, but they tried to disassociate themselves with, they are Edomites too. You got the so-called rabbis that call Babylon and Western, the Western world, Edom, Esav, which, you know, that's true. That's true. But what's they're not telling you is they are Edomites too. And actually, they'll be the head tribe of the nation of Edom. The Amalekites are Amalek. So right here, this was the first Amalekite, the Edomite, empire, which was the Greeks. This guy Alexander the Great, which was a straight demon. But this was the first Edomite empire, and you see he's an Edomite. He's a so-called white person. Let me show you something. It's gonna make sense. Check out, and when you go into this history, when the Greek Empire came into power, evils were multiplied because homosexuality, transgenderism, all this other very wicked stuff was pushed when they came into power. Now people had started to conform to these ways. They had a heavy idolatry, different gods for different reasons, different seasons, different gods for money. I mean, it's crazy. But this is where the J people and your Edomites today descend from. Right here. It says, based on historical accounts, Alexander the so-called Great is widely considered to have been bisexual when he was a Mo. You never heard this before. It says engaging in sexual relationships with both men and women throughout his life. So that's why when Edomites come into power, you have all this dysfunctionality. They're adverse to the Lord way. The Lord is not with that life. Actually, that's an abomination. But what they do is the opposite and push that illness, that demonic culture on you. And our people have embraced it, and they under a spell. Let's go here. So I'm gonna show you something. This out of this book. Who is Esau Edom? So when you go to page 11, what do you have here? I'm gonna start at the top because some people know these people as Khazars, but they're Edomites. Let me start the second paragraph. It says the Khazar government was destroyed by the Slavs of Russia in 1016 AD. It says around 1200 AD, the land was invaded by the hordes of Genghis Khan. These two events caused large numbers of Khazars to migrate to Poland and Western Russia. It says forming the cradle of Western Jewry. This is an abundance of ancient places named in the Ukraine and Poland. That's why that's a whole other lesson with the whole Ukraine thing. Because that, if I'm not mistaken, that's the territory of the Khazars, which are your modern day J people, which are Edomites. Let's get into this more. It says, the third paragraph, as the Khazars left their homeland in Khazaria and migrated north and west, they lost their name and became known as the Jews. Their Yiddish language and alphabet is not that of the Israelite Phoenician Greek style, but in whatever they say, of Aramaic, medieval German, Slavic, and Russian dialects. So it's a gumbo of different languages. And they have pushed that pronunciation and created this language called modern Hebrew, which if you go to some of these people these linguistics, people that understand and they actually break down languages, they'll tell you that modern so-called Hebrew is not the same as ancient Hebrew. Salakia. What are they telling you without them telling you that these ain't the same people from the Bible because they don't speak the language that we spoke? It says the best historical evidence, therefore, shows that the Jews are not descended directly from the Israelites of the Bible, but derive much of their ancestry from the Khazars and other people of Turkish Asiatic blood. The Khazars are also of Edomite stock. The both stock make up the present day Jews. It says, as historian H.G. Wells states, the Idumeans, Edomites, were made Jews. It says, according to the Jewish Encyclopedia, the original stock of the Khazars came from the land of Edom. So let's go here. That's a mic drop. And that kills all the confusion. Now this will make everything else make sense. That's why they control the whole world. That's going back into 2nd Ezra 6 and 9. Esau is the end of the world, which means an age. And Jacob, which the kingdom would be the kingdom of follow it. You know what I'm saying? Our kingdom, which would be righteous. This kingdom is wicked. Isaiah 63. Let me go to 1. So the Messiah is coming back to a world ruled by Edom. Salakia. Isaiah 63 and 1. It says, who is this that coming from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? This is that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength, as Yahweh Shah, the Messiah, coming back on a chariot and coming back with chariots with the angels to destroy Babylon and deliver his elect. It says, I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. Isaiah 63 and 2. So that's a lie that the Edomites were done away with. And another mainstream lie that's taught to these dumb Christians is so-called white people come from Japhet. No. So-called white people today, they call themselves many different names. The J people, which would be the head tribe, you know, the British and the Europeans, the Spanish, the French, the Australians, the so-called white people, Americans, they all are Edomites. It says, wherefore are thou red and dyed apparel, and dyed garments like him that treaded in the wine fat, Salakia. It says, I have trodden down the winepress alone, and of the people there was none with me, and I will tread them in mine anger. So the Messiah is coming back to destroy. So what you got in your mind is this Edomite guy with long hair as a woman. They're coming back, you know, to love everybody. No, that's a figment of your imagination. The so-called black man is coming back with vengeance and to destroy Babylon. It says, and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment. And they're going to show you that you Christians are delusional. You are not reading the same Bible that we are reading because you're into the religion of Christianity. We're actually into the teaching and the truth of the Bible. Two separate things. Isaiah 63 and 4. For the day of my vengeance is in mine heart, and the year of my redeem is come. So the Messiah coming back to destroy get his enemies. Let's go here. And I got a lesson that I'm working on to go more into this Alexander the so-called great to show you that he was an Edomite, right? And he came from, he descended from Amalekites. And that's who the J people come from. It says Exodus 17 and 16. It says, for he said, because Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shah have sworn that Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shah will have war with Amalek. That's the J people today, which are Edomites, from generation to generation till he come back. The Lord got him on his hit list. You know what I'm saying? Enemy list. Right? So hopefully this lesson was edifying. Call Allah Yahweh. Bahashim. Yahweh Shah. Bahashim. Rahak. Kodash. Shalom.